ഹായ് ഫ്രണ്ട്സ്, ഇന്ന് നമ്മൾ ഡിസ്കസ് ചെയ്യാൻ പോകുന്നത് കിഡ്നിയുടെ അനാറ്റമിയാണ്. അപ്പോൾ കിഡ്നി ഒരു എസ്സേ ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ ആണ്. അതുപോലെ തന്നെ കിഡ്നിയിൽ നിന്ന് വേണമെങ്കിൽ ഒരു ഷോർട്ട് എസ്സേയോ ഷോർട്ട് നോട്ടോ ചോദിക്കാനും സാധ്യതയുണ്ട്. അപ്പോൾ എന്തൊക്കെ നിങ്ങൾ കിഡ്നിയിൽ പഠിച്ചിരിക്കണം, അതെങ്ങനെ ഓർത്തിരിക്കണം എന്നുള്ള രീതിയിലുള്ള ക്ലാസ്സാണ് ഞാനിപ്പോൾ എടുക്കുന്നത്. അപ്പോൾ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് കിഡ്നിയെപ്പറ്റി അറിഞ്ഞിരിക്കേണ്ട കുറച്ച് കാര്യങ്ങളുണ്ട്. അപ്പോൾ കിഡ്നിയെപ്പറ്റി ഒരു ചോദ്യം ചോദിക്കുകയാണെങ്കിൽ നിങ്ങൾ ഓർത്തിരിക്കേണ്ട കാര്യം, അതിനെപ്പറ്റി ഒരു ഇൻട്രഡക്ഷൻ എഴുതുക. അതുപോലെ കിഡ്നിയുടെ ലൊക്കേഷൻ മെൻഷൻ ചെയ്യുക. അപ്പോൾ ആ ലൊക്കേഷനിലാണ് നിങ്ങൾ ഡിസെക്റ്റ് ചെയ്യാൻ പോകുന്നത്. നിങ്ങൾ ഡിസെക്റ്റ് ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ ആ ലൊക്കേഷനിൽ നിങ്ങൾ കിഡ്നിയെ കാണുന്നു. അപ്പോൾ കിഡ്നിയുടെ എക്സ്റ്റേണൽ ഫീച്ചർ നിങ്ങൾ കാണുന്നു. കിഡ്നിയുടെ ആൻറ്റീരിയർ ആൻഡ് പോസ്റ്റീരിയർ റിലേഷൻസ് എന്തൊക്കെയാണെന്ന് കാണുന്നു. അതുപോലെ കിഡ്നിയെ കവർ ചെയ്യുന്ന ക്യാപ്സ്യൂളുകൾ, അതിനെപ്പറ്റി അറിയണം. അതുപോലെ തന്നെ കിഡ്നിയുടെ മാക്രോസ്കോപ്പിക് സ്ട്രക്ചർ, അതുപോലെ കിഡ്നിയിലുള്ള മൈക്രോസ്കോപ്പിക് സ്ട്രക്ചറുകൾ, അതുപോലെ കിഡ്നിയിലേക്കുള്ള ആർട്ടീരിയൽ സപ്ലൈ, വീനസ് ഡ്രെയിനേജ്, അതുപോലെ ലിംഫാറ്റിക് ഡ്രെയിനേജ്, കിഡ്നിയുടെ നെർവ് സപ്ലൈ, കിഡ്നിയുടെ ഡെവലപ്മെൻറ്റ് എങ്ങനെയാണ്. അപ്പോൾ അതൊരൊപ്പം ക്ലിനിക്കൽ സിനാരിയോ കൂടി പഠിക്കണം. അപ്പോൾ നിങ്ങളുടെ പുതിയ എക്സാം പാറ്റേൺ അനുസരിച്ച് ക്ലിനിക്കൽ സിനാരിയോ ബേസിസിലായിരിക്കും നിങ്ങൾക്ക് ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ വരുന്നത്. അപ്പോൾ നിങ്ങൾ പ്രധാനമായിട്ട് ക്ലിനിക്കൽ സിനാരിയോ ഒന്ന് നോക്കിയിരിക്കണം. So let's talk about the introduction. We know that kidney is a reddish brown bean-shaped organ which is present within the abdomen in the posterior abdominal wall, and its major function is it is the major excretory organ in the body, as well as it helps to maintain water and electrolyte balance in the blood. ഇത് നമുക്കറിയാം. So I'm going to the next topic. Coming to the location of the kidney, which location that you should mention about? That is the location with respect to the vertebra. We know the kidney is extending from T12 to L3 vertebra, and which is the second location? The second location is with respect to the median plane or the sagittal plane over the vertebral column axis. So the upper pole, which is 2.5 cm lateral to the median plane, hilum is 5 cm lateral to the median plane, and the lower pole is 7.5 cm to the lateral. Then the third location with respect to the abdominal region. We know there are 9 regions in the abdomen. Out of that, kidney is coming under the epigastric, hypochondriac, lumbar and umbilical regions of the abdomen. And the fourth location is the location with respect to the peritoneum. We all know the kidney is a retroperitoneal organ. And the fifth location is the location of the kidney while breathing, because there is a change in location of the kidney due to its contact with the diaphragm. That is, kidney moves 2.5 cm downwards during inspiration. Moving on to the next heading, that is the external feature of the kidney. We know kidney is 11 cm long, 6 cm wide and 3 cm thick. We know kidney is having two poles, that is a superior and inferior pole. Superior pole is related with the adrenal gland, and two borders there is that is the medial border and a lateral border. The lateral border is convex and the medial border is convex above and below, and in the middle the medial border is concave where the hilum is present. And there are two surfaces, the anterior and posterior surfaces. The anterior surface is directed anterolaterally, and the posterior surface which is directed posteromedially. And we know there is a hilum, and the hilum is transmitting renal blood vessels, lymphatics, nerve supply, renal pelvis, and sometimes the subsidiary branches of renal artery. Subsidiary branches of renal artery is an additional artery which is present in 30% of the population. Moving on to the relations of the kidney, let's talk about the anterior relations of the right kidney. So the right kidney is anteriorly related with the right flexure of the colon, or the right colic flexure, or the right hepatic flexure. Why the right colic flexure is called hepatic flexure? Because the right colic flexure is related with the liver. That is why the right colic flexure is called hepatic flexure. The next anterior relations of the right kidney is with the second part of the duodenum, that is the descending part of duodenum. In the figure you can see that duodenum is having 4 parts: the superior, which is the first part, descending, which is the second part, inferior or horizontal, which is the third part, and the last one is the ascending, that is the fourth part. So you can see that the kidney is only related with the second part of the duodenum. The third anterior relation is the relation of the right kidney with the adrenal gland. Even though the right adrenal gland or the suprarenal gland, which is present in the upper pole, it is also extending towards the anterior surface. So the right kidney is anteriorly related with the adrenal gland also. The fourth anterior relation is the relation of the right kidney with the liver. And the fifth relation of the right kidney is with the jejunum. Here you can see an inferior cross-sectional view of right kidney in the horizontal plane. So you can see the relations, that is the liver, the right colic flexure, and the duodenum, that is the second part of duodenum, not the rest of the duodenum. Okay. We all know the liver is anteriorly related with the right kidney. And you can see here a pouch which is extending above the right colic flexure, which is lined by the peritoneum between the liver and kidney. You can see the space, the pouch which is present between the liver and kidney. And this pouch between the liver and kidney is called as the hepatorenal pouch of Morrison. I have told the name just for an additional information, so please remember the name hepatorenal pouch of Morrison. Moving on to the next, you can see the relations of the left kidney. That is, the left kidney is anteriorly related with the spleen, body of the pancreas. Please remember, note with the tail of the pancreas. That is, tail of the pancreas is related with the hilum of the spleen. Since kidney is only related with the inferior surface of the spleen and not with the hilum of the spleen, so that the tail of the pancreas is not having any relation with the right kidney. Okay, that is, the body of the pancreas is only anteriorly related with the kidney. Similar to the right kidney, which is related with the right colic flexure, here the left kidney is anteriorly related with the left colic flexure. And similar to that, the left kidney is also related with the suprarenal gland. We know the suprarenal gland is present on the upper pole, but the suprarenal gland is also anteriorly related with the left kidney also. And there is also jejunum, which is anteriorly related with the left kidney. And the left colic flexure, which is otherwise called as the splenic flexure, because it is related with the spleen. The stomach, which is also anteriorly related with the left kidney. In this image, you can see that the adrenal or the suprarenal gland is related with the upper pole of the kidney, and the adrenal gland is extending to the anterior surface and not to the posterior surface. That is why suprarenal gland is coming under the anterior relations of the kidney. And we have completed the anterior relations of the right and left kidney. Let's talk about the posterior relations of the right and left kidney. You can see the kidney is related posteriorly with some of the nerves and muscles. You can see the nerves in the image, that is the subcostal nerve, iliohypogastric nerve, ilioinguinal nerve. In this image, you can see the three nerves again, and the subcostal nerve, which is having the root value T12, the iliohypogastric and ilioinguinal nerve is having the root value of L1. Here you can see the muscles clearly. Most medially you can see the psoas major muscle, and lateral to that you can see the quadratus lumborum muscle, and most laterally the aponeurosis of the transverse abdominis muscle. And we all know that the diaphragm, which is originating from the lower sixth rib, also having a posterior relation with the kidneys. We know kidney is developing from the pelvis. From the pelvis, it ascends up to the abdomen. That is how the kidney is becoming the part of abdomen. The left kidney can ascend up to a higher level than the right kidney, since the stomach is not restricting the ascent of left kidney. But what about the right kidney? The right kidney cannot ascend up to a higher level because the liver is not allowing the kidney to ascend up because it is a solid organ. So the left kidney is posteriorly related with the 11th and 12th rib, while the right kidney is only related with the 12th rib and not the 11th rib. Here you can see, along with subcostal nerve, subcostal vessels are also running with the subcostal nerve. And always remember that the right kidney is only having a relation with the 12th rib. Now moving on to the capsule covering the kidney, you can see there are 4 capsules. The first one is the innermost capsule, that is the fibrous capsule of the kidney, which is also called as the true capsule. And the innermost fibrous capsule of the kidney is formed by the condensation of the fibrous connective tissue. And outer to the fibrous capsule, the second covering, you can see the perirenal fat or the perinephric fat, which is present around the fibrous capsule. And we know that the fat is composed of adipose tissue. The third covering is the renal fascia, which is also called as the Pons capsule. The renal fascia is having an ill-defined anterior layer, which is called the fascia of Tolt, and a well-defined posterior layer, which is called the fascia of Zuckerkandl. The renal fascia or the Pons capsule is also known by the name fascia of Gerota. So the fascia of Gerota having an anterior layer called fascia of Todt and a posterior layer which is called fascia of Zuckerkandl. And the renal fascia is a fibroareolar sheath covering the kidney. The fourth layer which is covering the kidney is the pararenal fat, that is the paranephric fat. It is again fat that is made up of adipose tissue, and this pararenal fat act like a cushion to the kidney. You can see the suprarenal gland is present in a separate compartment formed by the renal fascia, that is the fascia of Geroda, and the renal fascia is forming a separate compartment for the suprarenal gland, and above the suprarenal gland you can see the fascia of Geroda, that is the renal fascia, which is getting merged with the diaphragmatic fascia. Diaphragmatic fascia is the fascia which is lining under the diaphragm, and the renal fascia which is merging laterally with the fascia transversalis. So please remember, the renal fascia which is merging superiorly with the fascia, that is the diaphragmatic fascia, and laterally with the fascia transversalis. Now let's talk about the macroscopic structure of kidney. In this figure you can see the two parts. That is, on macroscopic structure we can see there is a renal sinus and there is a kidney proper. The renal sinus, which can be defined as a cavity of considerable size present within the kidney, and the renal sinus is occupied by the greater part of pelvis, minor and major calyces, renal vessels, lymphatics, nerves and fat. Then the kidney proper, which is having two parts, the outer cortex and the inner medulla. Here you can see the outer cortex, which is pale yellow in color, and the inner medulla, which is having 5 to 11 conical masses called the renal pyramids or the pyramid of Malpighi. The apex of the renal pyramid is having a nipple-like projection. You can see that is called the renal papillae. That is, the apex of renal pyramid is having renal papillae, and this renal papillae is invaginating into the minor calyx, and there can be 5 to 11 renal pyramids. So probably there will be 5 to 11 minor calyces will be there, and this 5 to 11 minor calyces will unite to form 2 to 3 major calyces, and this 2 to 3 major calyces unite to form a big funnel shaped cavity that is called the renal pelvis, and which continues down as the ureter. We already mentioned the structures that are transmitting through the hilum, and they are the contents of the renal sinus. We know the renal sinus is having the contents like renal artery, renal vein, and the lymphatics, nerve supply, and the renal pelvis, etc. Out of that, the renal veins, which is the anterior-most structure which is entering into the kidney through hilum, and behind the renal vein you can see the renal artery, and behind the renal artery you can see the renal pelvis. So they are arranged in the order that you can remember by the mnemonic VAU, that is VAU. V represents veins, A represents artery, and U represents ureter or the pelvis. Let's talk about the arterial supply. We know the arterial supply of the kidney is by the renal artery. In 70% of the population, the renal artery is single, but in 30% of the population, there can be another artery along with the renal artery, that is called the accessory renal artery. So in that case, there is two renal arteries. Approximately 1 to 1.5 liter of blood is circulating the kidney for 1 minute, and the renal artery is usually arising just below the origin of the superior mesenteric artery at the level of the L1 L2 intervertebral disc. In the figure you can see an accessory left renal artery marked as number 1. You can see the cast of the renal artery here. The renal artery divides into an anterior division and posterior division. Both the anterior division and posterior division will produce the segmental artery. You can see the anterior segmental artery is larger than the posterior segmental artery. Then the segmental arteries will further divide into lobar branch. Here you can see the image of renal artery and its branches. Okay, let's go through the arteries. There are renal artery, which is dividing into anterior and posterior division, and which is giving rise to segmental artery. Segmental artery giving rise to lobar branch giving interlobar artery. Interlobar branch is giving arcuate artery, and it gives interlobular artery, and it is giving afferent arteriole. Okay, the afferent arteriole is forming the glomeruli, as we all know. Next, about the vascular segment. There is also a concept of vascular segment in kidney. There are 5 vascular segments are there in the kidney. And what about the properties of vascular segment? The vascular segment, each segment has its own artery, and between the segments there is no anastomosis. Really, the 5 segments are the apical, lower, upper, middle, and the posterior. These are the 5 vascular segments. Then about the venous drainage, I have already told that the efferent arteriole forming peritubular capillaries, and they will form the corresponding venules and it unites to form the renal vein. Next about the lymphatic drainage. The lymph is drained into the para-aortic lymph node at the level of the origin of renal artery. So the para-aortic lymph node at the level of origin of the renal artery is receiving the lymphatic drainage from the kidney, and you can see the lymphatic vessels coming from the kidney through hilum, and which is connected to the para-aortic lymph nodes. And from the para-aortic lymph nodes, the lumbar lymph trunks are formed, and the lumbar lymph trunks terminate into cisterna chyli. From the cisterna chyli through the thoracic duct, the lymph drains finally into the left subclavian vein. Then about the nerve supply. The nerve supply is provided by the renal plexus of nerves, which reaches the kidney along the renal artery. So there is sympathetic and parasympathetic supply. The sympathetic supply is mainly provided by T10 to L1 spinal nerve, and the parasympathetic supply is mainly provided by the vagus nerve. The sympathetic supply is from T10 to L1, I have already mentioned, that is from the T10 to L1 spinal nerve. Some of the sympathetic fiber rely in the sympathetic ganglion, as we all know, and some of the sympathetic fiber rely in the ganglion which is present in the renal plexus also. The sympathetic fiber from T10 to L1, that is from the T10 and L1, which is reaches the kidney through the lesser thoracic splanchnic nerve, and the sympathetic fiber from the T12 spinal nerve reaches the kidney through the least thoracic splanchnic nerve, and the sympathetic fiber from the L1 which is reaches the kidney through the first lumbar splanchnic nerve. You can see that in the image that the T10, T11 which is coming to the lesser thoracic splanchnic nerve, and the T12 from the least thoracic splanchnic nerve, and the L1 from the first lumbar splanchnic nerve. That is, the splanchnic nerve is providing the sympathetic supply to the kidney. And the sympathetic fibers are mainly vasomotor. We know the sympathetic fibers are of two types, vasomotor and secretory motor. Here the fibers are vasomotor, that is, it mainly regulating the diameter of the blood vessel. And parasympathetic supply is from vagus, but the hypogastric nerve also providing the parasympathetic supply to the kidney. You can see both the parasympathetic supply in the image. Okay, and we will discuss about the development of kidney in the embryology session, but we have to know the kidney from where it is developing. We know the kidney is developing in the pelvis, and later it ascends into the abdomen during the embryonic life, and the left kidney ascends to a higher level than the right kidney, because the right kidney cannot ascend up because there is a presence of liver. Liver is restricting the ascending of the right kidney, so that the right kidney is having only a relation with the 12th rib, but the left kidney is having a relation with the 12th rib and the 11th rib. Then about the clinical scenario, there are some congenital anomalies. So I am going to mention about some of the congenital anomalies. First, about the lobulated kidney. That is, the kidney is lobulated here. And the second one is the aberrant artery. That is, aberrant artery is seen in 30% of the individual. And the next is the congenital polycystic kidney. That is, there are some formation of cystic masses in the kidney. That is what you can see in the congenital polycystic kidney. You can see the cross section of the congenital polycystic kidney here. And the next congenital anomaly is the horseshoe kidney. That is, the kidney can be like a horseshoe. Okay, you can see the shape. And what about the next? That is the renal agenesis. That is the failure of the kidney to develop. ഇത്രയാണ് നിങ്ങൾക്ക് കിഡ്നിയുടെ ഗ്രോസ് അനാട്ടമിയെ പറ്റി പ്രധാനമായിട്ട് അറിഞ്ഞിരിക്കേണ്ടത്. അതിലേറ്റവും ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻ്റ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള കാര്യം കിഡ്നിയുടെ റിലേഷൻസ് ആണ്. ചിലപ്പോൾ കിഡ്നിയുടെ റിലേഷൻസ് മാത്രമായിട്ട് നിങ്ങൾക്ക് എക്സാമിന് ഒരു ഷോർട്ട് നോട്ട് ചോദിക്കാം. പിന്നീട് നിങ്ങൾ അറിഞ്ഞിരിക്കേണ്ടത് കിഡ്നിയുടെ ആർട്ടീരിയൽ സപ്ലൈ. അത് നിങ്ങൾക്ക് ഫിസിയോളജിക്കും വളരെ ഉപകാരപ്പെടും, കാരണം കിഡ്നിയുടെ ആർട്ടീരിയൽ സപ്ലൈ നിങ്ങൾ അറിഞ്ഞിരിക്കണം. അതുപോലെ തന്നെ ദ സിമ്പത്തറ്റിക് സപ്ലൈ ആൻഡ് ദ പാരാസിമ്പത്തറ്റിക് സപ്ലൈ ടു ദ കിഡ്നി. ദ സിമ്പത്തറ്റിക് സപ്ലൈ, ദാറ്റ് ഈസ് വാസോമോട്ടോർ സപ്ലൈ, അത് വളരെ ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻ്റ് ആണ്. കാരണം കിഡ്നി മെയിൻറ്റെയിൻസ് ദ ബ്ലഡ് പ്രഷർ ബൈ റിലീസിങ് റെനിൻ. ഓക്കെ, അപ്പം അതിൽ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് ഈ വാസോമോട്ടർ ആക്ടിവിറ്റിയുടെ ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻസ് ഫിസിയോളജിയിൽ വരുന്നുണ്ട്. സോ അതുകൊണ്ട് നിങ്ങൾ കിഡ്നി ഫിസിയോളജി അനാട്ടമി ലിങ്ക് ചെയ്ത് പഠിക്കുക. അതുപോലെ തന്നെ ഡെവലപ്മെൻറ്റിനെ പറ്റി ഒരു വിശദമായ ക്ലാസ് എംബ്രിയോളജിയിൽ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് പിന്നീടുണ്ടായിരിക്കും. പിന്നെ നിങ്ങൾ ക്ലിനിക്കൽ സിനാരിയോ പഠിക്കുക. നിങ്ങൾക്കറിയാം എസ്സേ ചോദിക്കുന്നത് ഒരു ക്ലിനിക്കൽ സിനാരിയോയെ ബേസ് ചെയ്തിട്ടായിരിക്കും. അപ്പോൾ അത്രയാണ് നമുക്ക് കിഡ്നിയെ പറ്റി അറിഞ്ഞിരിക്കേണ്ടത്. താങ്ക് യു.